Thank you. My name is Karen Stevens, and I'm conducting an oral history interview with Theo DeVinney on Thursday, June 15th, 2017, for the Georgia State University Women's March Oral History Project. We're conducting this interview at the Atlanta History Center in Atlanta, Georgia. Theo, before we talk about your experiences regarding the Women's March, I'd like to get a little biographic information about you. What year were you born?
2002.
Okay. Where were you born?
Here in Atlanta.
Here in Atlanta. Can you describe some of your family's political leanings, as you're growing up?
We're all pretty, liberal.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How do you spend, are you a student? High school?
Yeah, high school student.
Where do you go to school?
Galloway.
Galloway. And so you're 14?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'd like to say also in the room with us today is your mom, Chris. Okay. So have you been involved in political activities before the march?
No, not really. The march was my first, real political, protest kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. When did you decide that this march was something, this was the march in Atlanta, right?
Mm-hmm.
When did you decide that this was something you wanted to participate in?
Well, I heard about it, from, online and from, my friends at my old school, and so, I was really excited about, having the opportunity to participate in, a political, protest kind of thing, easily, because typically I can't really do it because it would be a lot of traveling or too much time would be taken out of other stuff. So having the opportunity to do the march without it cutting into my other life stuff school and homework and stuff was something I definitely wanted to take up.
So was there a particular issue that got you interested?
Personally, the LGBT community, I wanted to definitely march for that because I'm a gay trans guy. All of my best friends are queer as well. My best friend is a gay trans woman, so I wanted to march for me and my friends and my loved ones.
Understood. Was there something in the media that prompted you to march now at this point in time?
I don't think so. I think that I just decided that I was at the point where I could and I wanted to march.
Had any of your family members participated in political activities before?
Mom was a lobbyist for a long time. I think that's as far as I know. I'm sure some of my family members from extended family have done political activities, but I don't really know the specifics.
Uh-huh. Have you participated in a march before, at school or?
No, I've only participated in the Women's March.
Okay. Could you tell me a little bit more about why you wanted to march on January 12th? It was a rainy day. How did so many people come out? Why did you come out?
I came out because I had the opportunity and I just really wanted to march, honestly. It was a really cool opportunity and I wasn't going to let rain stop me.
Can you take me through what the day was like? What was the day like for you when you woke up that day? Did you have expectations? Were you excited? What was going on inside Theo?
I was kind of excited and anxious at the same time. I was really excited for it, but there's also an element of anxiety, what could go wrong? A lot of things could go wrong, and a lot of things did go wrong in the long run, but it was still a really great experience. Mostly it was anxiety beforehand, and it was kind of hard to describe. The only thing I can really compare it to is going to Pride. It's a very similar feeling to going to Pride and marching in the parade.
A little excitement, not really sure what else going to happen, but determined to go anyway. I understand. Did so you talked a little bit about the issue of LGBT LGBT whatever. Okay. Within that realm was really important for you to march in this particular march?
I mean, transgender rights are something that's very, very important to me. Like, because I'm transgender myself, and like, the ability, like, I wanted to march so that like I would be able to transition, and like I wanted to express that I was like angry over the political the political, I guess, what's the word? Atmosphere towards transgender people. And I wanted to show that we're not all 40-year-old men trying to like pretend to be women to like go in and like harass people. Like literally like all the trans people I know are like, we're just normal people. Like, I mean, that's kind of it. Like,
mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's...
So there's a perception out there that over 40 trans men are somehow inappropriate.
Yeah, and it's a big perception, especially within like conservative and like right-leaning communities, that trans people are trying to pretend to be something they're not. And it's completely inaccurate. Like, a lot of cisgender people think that trans people are like women pretending to be men or men pretending to be women, but really it's kind of the other way around. Because like, for me particularly, like, being perceived as a woman feels more like pretending than being perceived as a man. And I know that that's like, I'm pretty sure that's like a common thread within like the transgender community.
Were there other issues in the march that were important to you?
Yes, I wanted to march against misogyny, racism, ableism, homophobia, transphobia. I wanted to march for oppressed people, like people like me and like my loved ones.
Okay. Was this your first time in, well, you mentioned Pride.
Yeah, I mean, Pride isn't as political, I think. Like, I mean, it could be taken as like a political march, but I personally consider it more as a celebration of like how I identify and how like people in the LGBT community identify, and it has been very political in the past. Like, I mean, the first Pride was a riot, and obviously that's very political, but I think that it's changed a little, and personally I don't consider it as political because I don't consider my identity a political statement, but I can totally see how like other people would consider it a political like march and like a political statement to be at Pride.
In getting to the march, and we talked a little bit about some of the excitement and anxiety when you got up. And did you travel? Did you march with other people?
Yeah, with my family. My little sister wasn't there, but my mom and dad, and we had some family friends, and my best friend was there with me as well. We marched together. So it was a pretty big group. Yeah.
Did you drive or take MARTA?
We took MARTA.
How was that? What was MARTA like?
It was very crowded. There were a ton of people, like, obviously going to the march, and, like, it was really cool to see everyone who was going and, like, all the faces of the people who were going to the march.
Were they carrying signs, or was it...
A few were, yeah. Like, a lot of people were carrying signs.
And it was raining that day.
Yeah, it was, like, pouring rain, but there were still, like, a ton of people.
My goodness. So you get off the train, and then what was your first impression of the scene?
I mean, we had to like walk to where the march was, so it was kind of like it was a lot of people. It was a ton of people that were like all there at once, but it was really cool to see everyone coming out and like going to the march. Like,
were you surprised?
Yeah, I was pretty surprised. There were like so many people. It was kind of hard to comprehend.
What was the demeanor, if I can use that word, of the people, just all of the people that you saw? Was it still did it look like they were anxious or excited, or?
I think, like, mostly excited and, like, yeah, I didn't really pay, like, too much attention to, like, the other marchers, but it mostly seemed like everyone was pretty excited.
Mm-hmm. And so then you made your way to the Human Rights Center where the march
Mm-hmm.
started, and then what happened then?
Well, for I don't know exactly how long it was because I'm terrible with time, but for like a little while we were on like the lawn there, like, and me and my friend walked around and like talked to people that like we knew because there were a lot of people from our school there, so we went and like talked to our friends and stuff and like met up with them, and it was just like it was kind of like a demeanor of like excited waiting, like kind of like anxiety, I guess. Yeah, it's hard to describe exactly.
Got it. So it sounds like if you're seeing people from school, your school was kind of supportive, or your friends and neighbors and family that you mentioned this
I
to?
think that like a lot of like people that I knew were supportive. Galloway is a very, very liberal school. So there were a lot of people from Galloway there, and a lot of my friends are very liberal, so I saw a lot of my friends there, or like some of my friends went to like the March on Washington, so it was really cool to see so many people that I knew there.
Did you see anybody who was protesting your protest or your right to march? Were there any?
I didn't see anyone,
No.
but I'm sure there were people.
In law enforcement, did that seem like it was appropriate, or how did you feel about that?
I mean, personally, I'm, like, law enforcement is kind of a topic that I'd have to get into a lot, but, like, to really understand my point on it, I think that law enforcement wasn't super necessary at the march, but I did see some, but I don't think it was, like, super necessary. I mean, there weren't, like, people and, like, there weren't policemen and, like, riot shields and stuff, like, thankfully. But, like, I think that having it at a march was kind of unnecessary, but, yeah. I mean, my stance on, like, law enforcement in general is pretty complicated, so, yeah.
Did you want to talk a little bit more about
that? I think it would take a long time to explain.
All right. So, what were your feelings during the march? You're trudging along.
I was very happy to be there. The rain was kind of annoying, to say the least, but it was really cool to, like, be there. Like, that was, like, the first time that I had actually hung out outside of school with my friend that I marched with, so that was cool as well. Like, I mean, it was just, like, pretty awesome, I guess, to be there. That's the only way I can really describe it.
Did you see signs? Can you remember what some of them said?
Yeah, I saw a lot of signs. A lot of them was like pussy power, like yeah, that kind of thing. A lot of them mocking Donald Trump. Yeah, it was just that kind of like general signs.
Mm-hmm. What about chants? Were people chanting?
I think there were a couple chants. I don't remember exactly though. I don't have the greatest memory, so.
Were y'all chanting or just sort of taking it all in?
I think we were mostly taking it all in.
Got it. Okay. What was the crowd sort of like the same at the beginning and the middle, or did it change, or was it just
I mean, I think it was mostly the same. I think that like it picked up momentum as we got to like the Civil Rights Center, and I think that like the demeanor changed some from like walking through the crowds to like walking around at the History Center, or not the History Center, sorry, the Civil Rights Center, and I think that it was like more I guess, happy at the Civil Rights Center than, like, walking through the rain. But, yeah, I mean, it stayed mostly the same. Like,
Did, you know, there were speakers at different points. Did you get to hear any of the speakers?
unfortunately, I didn't.
Yeah. Was it too noisy, or you just didn't make it to the
We
platform?
didn't make it to,
Didn't
like,
make it to the platform?
yeah.
Was there anybody you were hoping to see as a speaker?
I didn't realize that there would be speakers, so no, not really.
Okay.
But I think that it would have been cool to see a speaker, like, if
Yeah.
I had gotten the chance.
So your friend that you went with from school,
Mm-hmm.
what did y'all talk about?
I mean, mainly we, like, I mean, during the march we kind of, like, walked around together and, like, tried not to lose each other in the crowds. Like, yeah, we mainly, like, talked to our friends together. Yeah, I mean, I can't really remember that much.
Yeah.
Like, a good amount of the time when we were at the Civil Rights Center was spent trying to find one of my friends to meet up with, which never came to fruition. But, yeah, that took a long time. Didn't work out very well.
How did y'all manage to stay together in this crowd?
Holding hands a
Holding
lot.
hands.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it wasn't easy.
Did you see any of the media coverage?
I saw people, like, talking about it on Twitter, and, like, I saw, like, a couple of the articles, like, the news articles, on, like, talking about the Atlanta March and, like, the other women's marches around the world, but I didn't see, like, a ton of coverage. Then again, I don't pay a ton of attention to the news, so.
Mhm. When did you realize that this was bigger than people had expected?
I think when I found out that it was, like, 60,000 people going to the Atlanta March, I realized that it was a lot bigger than I thought it would get. And I thought that I still think that it's really cool that so many people came together to, like, march on this day when it was, like, pouring rain and it was just all over, like, kind of gross weather, and people still came out and, like, supported what they believed in. I thought that was pretty cool. Like, I think that it was really cool to see so many people.
What does cool feel like?
I mean, like, I think excited and, like, I guess, like, happy that so many people came out and, like, marched. I mean, I thought that it was, like, I thought that it was great that so many people came out.
Okay. How did it feel? What did y'all do later in the day afterwards? Was the excitement still there, or was it business as usual?
I mean, we went and saw a dance, or, well, we tried to see a dance show, but the power went out, so we couldn't see it. And, I mean, it was kind of business as usual, I guess, but, like, it was still, like, I don't really know how to describe it, but, yeah. I mean, like, I was still, like, definitely excited. It was, like, again, like, it was kind of like going to Pride, like, after, it's still kind of like an elated feeling and, like, very, like, excited about having gone to it.
And then that night, what about the next day, the next couple of days?
I mean, I think, like, the next couple of days were, like, still, like, kind of, like, that elated feeling. Like, yeah, I mean, it kind of wore off after a little while, but it was still, like, and, like, I was still seeing stuff about the march, like, on social media, so it, like, the momentum kind of kept going.
And you saw, like, can you describe the different kinds of people you saw at the march? People
I mean,
your age,
I saw,
younger,
like,
older, what?
I saw basically everyone. Like, I saw, like, little kids, I saw, like, older people, I saw every kind of person, basically. Like, it was super diverse, it was really cool.
Cool. What do you want to see happen as as part of all of this effort?
I mean, I'd like to see some change in, like, the laws that the like, Trump administration has put in, and, like, I'd like to see some attitude change from the Trump administration, but I highly doubt that's ever going to happen. So it's kind of wishful thinking, but that's like the kind of thing that I would like to see. I'd like to see more people getting educated on like issues of like racism and misogyny and like homophobia and transphobia and ableism and etc. And like I think that seeing more people getting educated and more people like being introduced to like politics and like the politics that isn't just like, oh, you're seeing people talk on TV, like it involves you. It like needs to involve like you, and it needs to involve like your family rather than like just being a bystander.
What's your fear about what's going on?
I mean, honestly, like the Trump administration terrifies me. Just off the top of my head, there's nuclear war. They could make conversion therapy like mandatory for LGBT people. Like there's like the possibility of like new laws being set in place to like make like gay people being together illegal, like making transition illegal, or like even more difficult to obtain than it is in the US. Like there's so much that could go wrong, and it's not great. I don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you think you're going to continue to participate in marches?
Definitely.
Okay. Why do you think you will continue?
Well, I mean, I want to keep like getting out there and like participating in politics. 'Cause, like, I mean, you can have a debate with your friends about politics, but that's not really doing anything. Like, it's not doing anything concrete, at least. Like, you can't really change much by like debating someone on like whether or not LGBT people are allowed to exist. Like, I think that doing something concrete, like going to the march, like going to future marches, will like help like change the political atmosphere.
Was there anything about the march that surprised you?
I mean, I think the sheer amount of people that were there definitely surprised me, because I wasn't expecting that many people. I was expecting like, I think like before the march, like the number I was expecting was like 15,000, and it got to like 60,000, which is incredible. And it was very surprising, like a good kind of surprising. Like it was great to see that many people like at the march, but it was very surprising to see that many people.
What did that mean? What did that mean to you?
I mean, I think that it meant like, I mean, seeing so many people like both at the Atlanta march and marches around the world, like showed me that like more people than you would think are actively involved in politics and are getting into politics as well, and like are trying to do something about the current atmosphere.
Does anything really stand out to you about the march?
I think that like, I mean, just that it happened, and like at the same time as so many marches around the world, was like really like great to see. Like I think that, I mean, like I knew the March on Washington was going to happen, but I never expected like so many marches to go on like around the world. So I think that definitely stood out.
Yeah. How do you feel about the government's activities since the march?
Honestly, I hate them. I'm not gonna lie, I hate the Trump administration. It's been completely disgusting, to be fair. Like, that's all I can really describe it as. Like, it's kind of disheartening to see all of this. Like, you can never really get away from all of the bad news. Like, there's always something bad that's happening in the media. Like, there's no way to really get away from it all and de-stress, which is very, like, it takes a toll on people, so. It's just upsetting.
Understood. Do you have any strategies as a bright young 14-year-old for other 14-year-olds or people in your age bracket on ways that they can cope?
I mean, honestly, I think, like, getting away from the news for at least, like, an hour-ish daily, like, in basically any way, like, I mean, personally, like, I'll, like, do something like drawing, or, like, I'll, like, play a video game or something, and that'll just let me, like, de-stress, and, like, you can do that, like, you can get away from it in, like, any way you want, and, like, I think that that's very important, like, getting a break from, like, all the constant flow of bad news is important to, like, mental health. Like, getting away from, like, the constant, like, oh, this bad thing happened, and this bad thing happened, and this bad thing happened, like, all on the same day. Like, it's important to get away from that and just relax. And I mean, that might sound, like, kind of, like, unempathetic. Like, oh, I don't want to hear about this. Because it's, like, upsetting me, so I'm not gonna, like, talk about it. But I think it's very important to mental health to, like, have some, like, time to yourself when you're not being stressed out by all of the bad news that's constantly going on.
What would your advice be to anyone who's considering going to a march in the future?
Bring a lot of water. Bring snacks. I think those are definitely both very important. I mean, like, bring a friend. Like, marching on your own is not a good idea. Like, I think that bringing at least one person to any political, like, rally or, like, protest or anything is, like, important. There needs to be, like, a buddy system of some kind. Like, I mean, I think that, like, being prepared and, like, looking up, like, what the atmosphere is going to be like and how, like, the route that you're going to be marching, like, to find out if you need to, like, leave early or something. Like, I think just be prepared in general. Like, yeah, I think that it takes a lot of preparation, but it's definitely worth going to.
Let me ask you, as we start to wrap up, let me ask you, did this experience change you in any way?
I mean, I think that, yeah, it definitely did. Like, having actual, like, political experience with, like, marching was very valuable for me. Like, I definitely really enjoyed it. And I thought that it kind of opened my eyes, I guess. Like, it was really great to go to. It kind of showed me, like, more people care about, like, these issues than you think, and who are being, like, actively vocal on social media. Like, more people care about you. I think that like, definitely, like, opened my eyes, and it was very cool to, like, see that.
How did that feel to realize that more people care about you than you realize?
I mean, it was encouraging. Like, a lot of the time, especially, like, as a trans gay person, like, it feels like no one really cares. And, like, sure, people might be accepting of your gay identity, but not your trans identity. Or they'll understand that you're trans, but they won't understand that you're gay. Like, and it's disheartening, especially when those people are, like, very vocal about, like, not understanding and not, like, accepting you. But, like, seeing so many people, like, that do care was encouraging. It was very helpful. And, like, it helped get my hope up when it was, like, such a bad time in politics for me. Like, it was good to see so many people.
Let me ask you one more thing. Let me ask you this. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about or mention that we haven't talked about so far?
I don't think so, no.
I don't think so. Well, I think that's a good place to stop.
All right.
And I just wanted to say thank you, Theo DeVinney, for taking time out from your day and coming forward and telling us your experience in the march.
No problem. I was happy to do the interview.
Thanks.